Hello friends, welcome to Be and By IAS. A very warm welcome by your guide. As mentioned earlier in my previous video on selection of an appropriate optional subject for the mains examination, I had mentioned that there is a lot of commonality and overlapping between some parts of law optional paper, paper 1, that relates to constitutional law, and the polity paper of the general studies. So today I am going to take up the topic, very important topic of Constitution of India and its preamble, which will, I think, cover most of your polity paper topic of preamble and also a part of constitutional law in paper 1 of law optional. The Constitution of India was enacted on 26th November 1949. It was enacted and adopted, but it came into force on 26th of January 1950, which we celebrate as Republic Day. The preamble says, "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation." In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. So this is the recitation of the preamble as it appears on date in the beginning of the Constitution of India. Now, what is preamble? Preamble is an integral part of any enactment. And remember, Constitution is what? Constitution is the very fundamental law of our country. What do you mean by fundamental law? Fundamental law is the basic law which acts as an umbrella under which all other laws will be covered. So, Constitution is the fundamental law, the basic law of the land, which will shape the nation, which will shape the objective for which the Constitution has been enacted. It will tell us how the nation will be shaped, how the governance of the nation will be there, and how it will be governed. Governed by whom, who will have what authority, what power, and how the service conditions will be, enacted, service conditions, various services will be created, how they will operate, how they will be governed, how they will be controlled, how they will be operating. And as any other law gives us both rights as well as duties, responsibilities. So when we talk that we, the people of India, are giving us a constitution that is the basic law of the land, that law is giving us certain rights and also putting certain responsibilities. So law maintains a balance no right is without a appropriate responsibility, a corresponding responsibility. So this particular law of the land creates both. How? We will see now. As we have read the preamble, it is what it is now in the present form. But when it was originally enacted in 1949 and came into force in 1950, the preamble was not in the present form. Some changes have been brought in. So let us see how these changes were brought and what changes have been brought. The first thing is there was an important constitutional 42nd amendment in 1976. So what changes it has brought? Earlier it was sovereign democratic republic. It has been substituted. Substituted का मतलब होता है कि जो पहले था उसकी जगह एक नया पोर्शन आ गया उसमें. क्या एडिशन हुआ, क्या मॉडिफिकेशन हुआ, वो हम देखते हैं. So these three words have been substituted by sovereign socialist secular democratic republic. तो पहले क्या था? पहले सॉवरन डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक था. अब क्या ऐड हो गया? सोशलिस्ट ऐड हो गया और सेकुलर ऐड हो गया. क्यों हुआ वो हम देखेंगे. दूसरा जो चेंज आया, दैट वाज यूनिटी ऑफ द नेशन. दिस वाज देयर इन द ओरिजिनल प्रेएम्बल. दिस हैज बीन सब्स्टिट्यूटेड बाय unity and integrity of the nation. So the word integrity has been added. Why? We will see later. So first let us understand that 42nd amendment brought these changes in the preamble. And the question is the constitutional validity of these changes, these modifications, these substitutions. And these were upheld by the Supreme Court in the Minerva Mills case. We will not get into the details of this case now, because when we study more in depth in our law subject, that time it will be more relevant. But just remember that these changes have been given the approval of the apex court of the country, that is Supreme Court of India, in Minerva Mills case. Now let us see the object and scope of the preamble. ये सबसे important part है. कैसे important है कि कोई भी enactment जब किया जाता है, कोई भी law बनाया जाता है, तो उसका एक ऑब्जेक्ट होता है. किस पर्पस के लिए बनाया गया, और जब उसका पर्पस फिक्स हो जाता है फिर उसका स्कोप होता है, उसका फैलाव कितना है, उसके अंडर क्या क्या आ जाएगा, क्या क्या वो कवरेज कर रहा है. तो हम दोनों को देखेंगे कि जो प्रेम्बल है, वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, सिर्फ प्रेम्बल की बात कर रहे हैं आज हम. तो प्रेम्बल का ऑब्जेक्ट क्या था और इसका स्कोप क्या है. पहली चीज तो ये है कि कोई भी लॉ होता है, लॉ की एक बॉडी होती है जिसमें कि लॉ के डिफरेंट प्रोविजंस दिए होते हैं. उसी तरह से कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, बीइंग द फंडामेंटल लॉ ऑफ द कंट्री, हैज गॉट इट्स ओन बॉडी कंसिस्टिंग ऑफ आर्टिकल्स, कंसिस्टिंग ऑफ 10 शेड्यूल्स. तो उन सब में क्या लिखा हुआ है, उन सब से क्या रिफ्लेक्ट करना चाहते हैं, हम चाहते क्या हैं उस लॉ के जरिए, तो वो ऑब्जेक्ट जो है वो प्रीएम्बल में रिफ्लेक्ट होता है. इसलिए इसको क्या कहा जाता है? इट इज a recital of the facts and or state of the law. ये लॉ को एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर रहा है, ये उसकी डिटेल में नहीं जा रहा है, ये सिर्फ उसको रिसाइटल को रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है शॉर्ट में, उसका निचोड़ निकाल के वो आपके सामने रख रहा है कि इसके बाद ये इसका हेडिंग है, ये इसका प्रीएम्बल है, इसके बाद जो कुछ आएगा वो सब इन जो हमने अभी अभी प्रीएम्बल के जो कंप्लीट टेक्स्ट को पढ़ा है, उस टेक्स्ट में जो लिखा है उसके दायरे में आएगा। तो ये क्या करता है, इट कवर्स ओनली सम ऑफ द एविल्स और इनकन्वीनियंस। इसका मतलब क्या होता है, देखिए जब कोई लॉ बनाया जाता है तो वो किसी पर्पस के लिए बनाया जाता है कि एक गलती है, एक एविल है, एक मिस्टेक है, एक एबरेशन है, भूल चूक है, तो उसको हम कैसे एड्रेस करें। तो उसका एक, ये सारे एविल्स को कवर नहीं कर रहा लेकिन कुछ को कर रहा है जो कि बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है हमारे लिए जानने के लिए। नाउ द अदर थिंग इज इट डज नॉट एक्सक्लूड अदर्स गिविंग रेमेडी बाय द इनेक्टिंग पार्ट्स। इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि ये इंक्लूसिव है, ये एक्सक्लूड नहीं कर रहा, कुछ चीज़ों को एक्सक्लूड नहीं कर रहा। जैसे रेमेडीज है, हमने देखा एविल्स है, तो एविल्स को कैसे एड्रेस करेंगे, तो वो रेमेडीज हो गई, तो उनको एक्सक्लूड नहीं कर रहा। रेमेडीज कहाँ दी हुई हैं, इनेक्टिंग पार्ट्स में, जो हम जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे तब हम उनको एड्रेस करेंगे। सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट केस इसमें शुरू का ही है 1969 का, रे होता है रेफरेंस, बेरोबरी यूनियन। इट्स वेरी वेरी लैंडमार्क जजमेंट। तो इसमें प्रीएम्बल को उन्होंने बड़े अच्छे तरह से एक्सप्लेन किया है कि प्रीएम्बल क्या देता क्या है हमें, क्या क्या सिखा क्या रहा है, क्या बता क्या रहा है। तो पहली बात तो ये है कि प्रीएम्बल इज नॉट द सोर्स ऑफ एनी सब्सटेंटिव पावर। अब सब्सटेंटिव पावर क्या होती है, सब्सटेंटिव पावर वो है जो किसी भी अथॉरिटी को एक एम्पावर करती है, उसको एक अथॉरिटी देती है। तो ये कुछ सोर्स नहीं है उस अथॉरिटी का, जैसे मैंने पहले बताया, ये सिर्फ रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है कि जो एक्ट में लिखा हुआ है उसका एक रिफ्लेक्शन है। इट इज नॉट सोर्स ऑफ दैट सब्सटेंटिव पावर, द पावर विच हैज बीन गिवन इन द बॉडी ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में पावर दी गई है थ्रू वेरियस प्रोविजंस, उसका सोर्स प्रीएम्बल नहीं है, उसका सोर्स वो पर्टिकुलर पार्ट है, वो पर्टिकुलर आर्टिकल है, या उसका कोई सब क्लॉज है। So, as I said, it gives a direction and purpose of the Constitution. Purpose means किस पर्पस के लिए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया गया। हमने अपने आप को कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दिया तो एक पर्पस के साथ दिया, एक डायरेक्शन देता है कि आपको इस डायरेक्शन में चलना है। वो क्या है वो हम आगे देखेंगे अभी। Now, this is a very important statement. What does it mean? Key to open the mind of act makers. Remember, act makers and key to open the mind. किसके दिमाग में हम झांक रहे हैं? जिन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया। किसने बनाया? बनाया हमने दिया है। वी द पीपल हैव गिवन आवरसेल्व्स द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, बट नॉट डायरेक्टली थ्रू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली। सो असली मेकर्स तो वो थे, पर उनके दिमाग में क्या था, व्हाट दे विजुअलाइज्ड इंडिया टू बी, उन्होंने क्या सपना देखा आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस कि जो हमारी कंट्री है वो किस शेप में होनी चाहिए, उसकी गवर्नेंस किस शेप की होनी चाहिए, which type of governance we are opting for. So that is the reflection. It is a key to open the mind. So with this key, with this preamble, we can just have a glimpse of what was there in the mind of its makers and mischiefs which they intended to redress. Mischiefs क्या थे? वही जो हमने पढ़ी अभी. Mischiefs है आपके evils, etc. जो मिस्चीफ वो सोच सकते थे, जो मिस्चीफ्स को वो एनविसेज कर सकते थे, which they could envisage that these kind of mischiefs were there. Like एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल है कि we were living under the British rule prior to independence, till the date of our independence. So we were ruled by whom? The British monarch. We were ruled by local rajas. So there was a feudal structure of governance. There was exploitation. By whom? By the rulers, then rulers. And we were living in a capitalist society, capitalist economy. So all these were mischiefs, evils, which our constitution wanted to eliminate. And उसकी जगह पे क्या लाना है, क्या वो लेके आए, वो preamble में reflect कर रहा है. So it is giving a key to open the mind of the act makers. क्या वो चाहते थे, किन मिसचीफ्स को वो रिड्रेस करना चाहते थे. रिड्रेसल का मतलब होता है टू रिमूव, टू एड्रेस एंड देन रिमूव देम. सो नाउ व्हाट इट helps come into interpretation of any law or act. This is very important. इंटरप्रिटेशन कौन करता है? देखिए, there are 3 organs of the government which are also called, under the separation of power, the 3 pillars of governance. कौन कौन से हैं? The first is legislature, second is executive, and the third is judiciary. Legislature का क्या काम है? The basic duty of the legislature is to make the laws. So legislatures are the makers of any law. This is any new law or act. So legislature ने law बनाया, implement कौन करेगा? Executive, right? And then when it comes to question of interpretation of law, it is the judiciary. So जब हम judiciary के पास जाते हैं कि look, this is a law which is affecting me under these facts and circumstances, kindly interpret it, whether it is in conformity with the constitution, because it is the fundamental law. सबसे बड़ा लॉ तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, तो ये उससे टकराव में तो नहीं है. Is it conforming to the provisions of the constitution? So that interpretation has to be done by the judiciary. So preamble also reflects, when we see the word justice, तो justice में ये आएगा आपका, उसी में ही judicial review भी आपका आ जाएगा कि it helps come into interpretation of any new law or act. Important thing is, indicates the source from which constitution derives its authority. अब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को भी तो अथॉरिटी ड्राइव करनी है ना, डिराइव करनी है. कहां से कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को अथॉरिटी मिली? किसने दी अथॉरिटी? द सोर्स ऑफ द अथॉरिटी फॉर इवन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. तो वो कौन है? वो है we the people of this country. They have given themselves this constitution. So the source from which the Constitution derives its authority. Very important part. Now we just had an overview of the preamble of the Constitution, its objects, its sources, in general, the purpose, how it was enacted, by whom it was enacted, and overall view of the citation of our preamble. Now let us go into the various ingredients. Now these ingredients are very important to learn. Learn by heart. Each and every ingredient should be there in your heart and your mind. Because without these ingredients, without learning them, without putting them into your own soul, you will not be able to understand the Constitution properly. And if you don't understand the Constitution, you are not a good citizen, leave alone the aspirant for the civil services examination. Now, if you see, I'll read one by one, then we'll get into the details of each one of them. The first ingredient, important ingredient, is we the people of India. It starts with these words. We means the people of India. People का मतलब citizens से, non-citizens से नहीं, those who are Indians. Sovereign, socialist, I said socialist was added. Secularism, a very key word, again added by 42nd Amendment. Democratic gives the structure of our governance. Republic, fraternity, justice, liberty, equality of status of opportunity, dignity of the individual, unity and integrity of the nation. So these are the key words and the key ingredients which no aspirant, no student of polity, no student of Constitution can ever afford to miss. So let us start with the first ingredient. We the people of India. What does it indicate? It indicates to people of India who have given themselves this Constitution. So समझ में आ गया? This is the source. Source is the people of India. They themselves have given them Constitution. Of course, not directly, not every individual. It is not possible for any nation to involve the entire people in formulation of the Constitution. So, it is kind of a representative character. जो लोगों के representatives हैं, वो लोग, they are reflecting the will of the people who represents us, our elected representatives, and in turn when they make any law, तो किसके लिए law बनाते हैं? हमारे लिए. So they know the aspirations of the people, they understand, they represent us. So in a representative character, they have acted in enacting this Constitution and giving it to us. Given to themselves through Constituent Assembly. So it was the Constituent Assembly which was of representative in character and which enacted this, passed this, and it became the fundamental law of the nation. This has been upheld in a landmark case of A.K. Gopalan versus State of Madras. In 1950 itself, it is one of the first cases which came up before the Supreme Court. Sovereign. Now, sovereign is a very important term in the context that when we got independence, from whom we got the independence? We came out of the clutches of a foreign power. the Britishers. So it was a colonial rule. We were being ruled by the colonial power through their British laws. Now, what happened after independence? That colonial rule was over. That was over. So, who is going to run the country? That means country was now free of its shackles of, being a slave. We were like slaves because the slave is being controlled by the master, and the masters were the Britishers. So once those shackles were removed, then we were free. Free in the sense that we could take our own decisions. Not that we, entire population, in a representative character, that our representatives can make laws and they have power to legislate. Power to legislate means to make law. Subject in conformity with constitutional limitations. अब क्या है, sovereignty doesn't mean कि आपको अनलिमिटेड पावर्स मिल गई हैं. नो, Constitution creates those limitations within which those laws are to be framed, enacted by the legislature. This is also called limited governance, which is the theory of constitutionalism that we will be studying in one of our subsequent videos, subsequent lectures on constitutionalism alone. So, every law which has been enacted by the legislature has to be within the constitutional limits. That is, it should conform. So, it was held in the Synthetic and Chemicals Limited versus State of Uttar Pradesh in 1990. Now, sovereignty also means, first is we are free to make our own laws, our own governance. Second is, very important, we are free from any external control. Nobody else, no other nation can dictate us what our policies should be, whether it is internal policy or foreign policy, how we should govern ourselves, how our governance, our country should run. So no external control, absolutely. This is the real definition of sovereignty. Whenever we say yes, in exercise of our sovereign powers, we do this. Our embassies in foreign countries, our foreign missions, they are mini territories of India in those countries. And they are sovereign. They exercise sovereign. That is why we say diplomatic immunity. इसका मतलब ये होता है कि जो हमारे डिप्लोमेट्स वहाँ पे स्टेशन्ड हैं, जो हमें हमारी कंट्री को वहाँ रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं उन नेशंस में, they are exercising the sovereign power of the country. They are not, though they are in the foreign country, they are not controlled by those countries. Whatever policies, whatever governance form, they are for the country, that applies to them also. Now, another important is we can, as a sovereign nation, we can acquire any foreign territory. Very important. Whether we acquire through a peaceful means or through war, we are free to do that. That's a very important part of sovereignty. We can also cede a part of our territory in favor of a foreign state. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि जैसे हम दूसरे की टेरिटरी को एक्वायर कर सकते हैं अंडर प्रिंसिपल ऑफ सॉवरेनिटी, उसी तरह से अगर हम चाहें, हम द पीपल थ्रू आवर रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स, इफ वी डिसाइड टू सीड एनी पार्ट ऑफ आवर कंट्री टू another nation, we have that liberty, that freedom. That is the sovereign. Now we come to the socialist principle, which has been added by 42nd Amendment. Now the question is, why we needed this? Why this amendment was needed? Why this word was needed to be put in the preamble itself? We will see that. पहले हम देखते हैं कि सोशलिस्ट जो कैरेक्टर है क्या, ये जो वर्ड ये जो फ्रेज हम यूज कर रहे हैं सोशलिस्ट, इसका मतलब क्या है? लेट अस ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड इट्स मीनिंग फर्स्ट. इट एम्स एट एंडिंग पॉवर्टी, ignorance, disease and inequality. This is very important. Of opportunity. Inequality of opportunity. Opportunities are many. It can be in service, it can be in business, it can be in any form of living. Existence as a human being. उसमें inequality नहीं होनी चाहिए. सब बराबर हैं, बराबरी होनी चाहिए. तो वो इनइक्वालिटी के कंसेप्ट को, इट्स ए पार्ट ऑफ सोशलिज्म, दैट देयर शुड नॉट बी एनी इनइक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी. नाउ द सेकंड पार्ट इज इनइक्वालिटी इन इनकम एंड स्टेटस एंड स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑफ लाइफ. सोशलिज्म, दोज हु आर स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ पॉलिटिकल साइंस विल बी नोइंग इट इन डेप्थ, that socialism aims at creating an equitable society where the opportunities, the standards of life, the status, they are all same. There is no inequality in any one of them. Well, yes, in reality it is very, very difficult, but this is what our constitution aims to achieve. And that is why this particular ingredient, socialist character of the constitution, had to be reflected in the preamble itself. That is why 42nd Amendment included it. Now, another objective of socialist system is to provide decent standard of life to the working people and especially provide security from cradle to grave. It puts a very, very important duty on the state. वो ड्यूटी क्या है कि when we are born in a country, till the time of our death, the entire span of life, we are under the protection of the state. The state where we are born. We are Indians. We are born in India, or we have adopted the citizenship of India. तो अब क्या होगा? स्टेट की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बन जाएगी. तो व्हेन इट कम्स टू द रिस्पॉन्स, एज आई सेड अर्लियर, लॉ गिव्स अस सर्टेन राइट्स एंड लॉ ऑल्सो एट द सेम टाइम पुट सर्टेन रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज एंड ड्यूटीज. किसके ऊपर? जिसको राइट्स मिले हैं. तो राइट्स आर नेवर विदाउट एनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और ड्यूटी. तो इसमें ड्यूटी किसकी बन जाती है? ड्यूटी बनती है स्टेट की, जिसकी प्रोटेक्शन में हम हैं, जिसके सिटीजन हैं हम. तो वो किस में आएगा? डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी इन पार्ट 4 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. वी विल सी. इट इज कास्टिंग ए ड्यूटी अपॉन द स्टेट under the provisions of directive principles that they must aim to do this. They are not enforceable. When we study directive principles, we will see that they are not enforceable. Rights we can enforce, there are two fundamental rights. And there are legal rights, there are other means of enforcing them. But directive principles we can't enforce. So, as I said, directive principles of state policy in part 4 of the Constitution, Article 38 particularly covers these 3 points. Now, Article 39, the next article, requires a very important, issue Now, the state has got, the country has got, particularly India is rich in resources, minerals, there are other material resources. So who should have the ownership? Under the socialist formula, these resources, material resources should not, or the wealth should not get concentrated in few hands. When we talk of equitability, we remove inequality. So under that same thing, the ownership and control of material resources of the community, that is of the, which belong to entire nation, to all of us, to the entire community of Indian citizens, they should not be controlled by only a few one. So, and a particular example of that is the public sector undertakings. Coal India Limited. That state is controlling them so that they do not fall into a few private hands. ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Commission. We have power sector, NTPC. So similarly, the material resources and the wealth, we have public sector banks, so that our resources and wealth does not get concentrated into few hands. Now we come to secularism. This is again a new term added in the preamble through 42nd Amendment in 1976. What does this mean, secularism? It is already there. It was already there in the Constitution. When it came into force in 1950, there are provisions which address the issue of secularism. So, as I said, preamble is just the mirror reflection. So, those had to be reflected in the preamble itself. That was the precise reason why through 42nd Amendment these terms were added. That first thing is, state has no official religion. It's not a Christian state, it's not a Muslim state, or state does not have a religion. This is the first principle. Like we have Islamic Republic of Pakistan, we have Islamic Republic of Bangladesh. Vatican City is Christian. Most of the European countries are Christian. They have a state religion, Christianity. We do not have. Opportunity to all persons to profess, practice and propagate religion and conscience. This is one of the fundamental rights. We will read that. Single citizenship is assured to all persons. This is related to the concept of secularism in a great manner, because when we have a single citizenship, that means we do not have separate citizenship or separate criteria of citizenship for one religion and the other religion. So there is no discrimination on the basis of religion. So secularism is part of fundamental law and an inalienable segment. That inalienable means it cannot be alienated. अलग नहीं किया जा सकता इसको. ये soul है. It's a very, very important part of our constitution. This is what our preamble has been reflecting. So we have freedom of religion. We can choose any religion. And consciousness. I mean, if we believe, have faith in any religion, it may not be only religion. Look, there are certain sects, there are certain classes of people who do not follow any religion, but they have a different type of conscience. They follow certain principles which they have created for themselves, principles of living their life. So they may not follow any particular religion, but they follow certain principles which form part of conscience. So we have total freedom to follow either any religion or any conscience. Freedom for one who has no religion. So, if you don't have any religion, you don't believe in any religion, still you are protected under the Constitution. This is what secularism stands for. It covers all these important reasons, whether you have a religion, whether you don't have a religion, you can, or you belong to any, you follow certain kinds of principles of life, living your life, it's up to you. So every citizen has got that kind of freedom. And this freedom has been ensured as a fundamental right in Part 3 of the Constitution. That means it is enforceable. If there is a violation, you can go to the court and get redressal. Restrains the state from making any discrimination on ground of religion. Very, very important. As I said, state will not discriminate on the basis of religion. State will neither give any special privileges nor put them under any kind of trouble or kind of a discriminatory position, which can be discriminated from one religion to another religion. So, they will not make any discrimination. They will not pass any law which will create discrimination on the basis of religion. Very, very important part of secularism. So these principles have been upheld in the landmark case of S.R. Bommai versus Union of India in 1994. Now we come to republic. The literal meaning of republic is that the head of the state should be elected. That means what kind of polity we are, what kind of governance we are opting for. Okay, now we say that we should be governed by someone whom we should elect, either directly or indirectly. If the head of the state, like President of India, the entire governance is run in the name of President, though it is run by Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, but he has to act on the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. But the entire governance is run in the name of President of India. And how is the President appointed? President is elected. How is he elected? Elected by an electoral college, indirectly. We don't have a presidential form of government, as in the case of USA. We have a democratic form. We'll come to that later. But as far as the meaning of republic is that we the people have chosen what kind of polity and what kind of governance we are opting for. So that means we have opted for a republic. This is upheld in R.C. Podiyal versus Union of India in 1993. So democratic public refers to political participation of people in running the administration of the government. That means there is a direct or indirect involvement of the people of the country in the governance. So it is. Now we come to what kind of governance we have opted for, that is the democratic form of governance. First thing about the democracy is, as you know, Abraham Lincoln said, it is of the people, by the people, and for the people. In democracy, the government is by the people. People, they elect. For the people. It is who are to be governed? The people. And they only opt for a particular kind of representation who will then form the government and then govern them. So the question is, who will elect them? Who are the electorates? The electorates are those who have got adult universal suffrage. That means they are adults, means they are of 18 years of age. Earlier it was 21, then reduced to 18 years. That means all adults, universal. Universal means बराबर, बिना किसी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के सबको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे है. अगर आप 18 साल के हैं, 18 साल और उससे ऊपर, यू कम अंडर एडल्ट यूनिवर्सल फ्रेंचाइज सफरेज. सो मीन्स you are on the same platform as an electorate, have the same power of your vote. You have the voting rights. That right has been given under Article 326 of the Constitution. Very, very important part of democracy is the free and fair elections. If the elections are rigged, if there are irregularities, it reflects on the basic soul of democracy. When there are free elections, there are fair elections, then the real representatives who actually represent the people will be elected, and they will be part of the legislature who will ultimately govern the country. Then who will conduct? Who is responsible? There is a constitutional authority who has been given this responsibility to ensure that the elections are held free and fair. So there is a supervision and control of Election Commission of India, which is a constitutional authority created under Article 324 of the Constitution. So their job is to conduct this through supervision and control. This is the hallmark of our democratic system, because I said a free and fair election is at the heart of the democracy. We come to justice. Justice is basically of many types, but under the Constitution, it has been, categorized into 3 categories. One is the social justice. Now, what is the social justice? I already said, state has to ensure that there is no discrimination from one category of people to another category of people. All people are same. So that social justice has to be ensured by the state, and this is enshrined in directive principles in the part 4 of the Constitution. Then there is natural justice. Natural justice is, students, it is not written, it's not codified. It flows from nature. अब इसका आप कहेंगे नेचर से कैसे लॉ आता है? अब आप किसी को पनिश कर रहे हो, पर आप उसकी बात नहीं सुन रहे, आप अपनी मनमानी कर रहे हो. किसी ने एक सीट पे बैठना है, प्रमोशन लेनी है, पर वो प्रमोशन की कमेटी में ही खुद मेंबर बन जाता है, तो देयर विल बी एन एलिमेंट ऑफ बायस. सो दीज आर व्हाट दे आर कॉल्ड. दे आर कॉल्ड principles of natural justice. क्या क्या है? One is RD altum partum. Nobody should be punished unheard. उसकी बात सुननी पड़ेगी आप. Then the second principle of natural justice, which is very important, is nobody will be a judge of his own cause. आप अपना फैसला खुद नहीं करेंगे. So they flow from nature. They are uncodified laws. But most of the administration, if you see the administrative law, it is governed by principles of natural justice only. There is no codified law for administrative law. No statute on administrative law, particularly, exclusively, like we have constitutional law. No codification of administrative law, but it flows naturally from principles of natural justice and are very, very important for the governance of any country. Fundamental rights in part 3, which are enforceable. Now, as the name indicates, fundamental rights, these are the basic rights which you need as a dignified human being, a dignified citizen of the country, and they have been enlisted from Article 12 to Article 32. So all these part 3 that we will study when we study the fundamental rights. Economic justice, first was social, then natural justice is a part of that. Economic justice, equality of reward for equal work. That means the amount of labor you put, the amount of hard work you put, you should be rewarded for that equally. Equally means if the other person is also doing the same kind of labor and I am also doing the same kind of labor, I should be treated equally as far as reward is concerned. So I should be rewarded for the same kind of work for which the other person is being rewarded. Political justice. Now, this is again very important. As I said, adult universal suffrage, that all adults have the equal right to vote. Similarly, when it comes to political justice, that means the political people who have aspirations to become the representatives of the people, maybe a member of parliament or member of legislature assembly, MLAs, or any form of local government like municipalities, etc. In political sphere, there should not be any discrimination between one person to another person, either on the basis of his caste, his livelihood, his lifestyle, or even gender, men and women. There should not be any discrimination at all. This is what is the political justice. We come to liberty, a very, very wide term with very wide connotations. Liberty, freedom. As we will see, freedom of life and liberty except in accordance with the procedure established by law. Article 21. What does it say? Nobody shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except in accordance with the procedure established by law. That means there has to be a law which authorizes the state to take away your life or personal liberty. If you have committed murder, 302, there is a law, Indian Penal Code. If there is a preventive detention, there is a law under which you can be detained. So that means your personal liberty is being taken away, your life is being taken away, but not at the whims and fancies of the state, not by any arbitrary rule or arbitrary order. It has to be authorized by a law, and the law should also prescribe a procedure. उसका तरीका भी वो law में लिखा होना चाहिए कि इस तरीके को follow करना है if you have to deprive anybody from his life or personal liberty. And this right, being a fundamental right, is available to any person. That means it includes non-citizens also. This has been upheld in Kartar Singh case. So this also includes, if we see starting from A.K. Gopalan's case in 1950 till recently, and even it is an ongoing process, the meaning of life and personal liberty is being expanded almost every other day by the Supreme Court in various landmark judgments. It has been said that life does not mean a mere animal existence. It has to be with dignity. So that interpretation has been done by the Supreme Court. So it is being expanded. The meaning, the scope of the term life and personal liberty is being expanded. Environment, right to have a clean environment. So like that, we have various freedoms. Then this also covers Article 19. Right to life and personal liberty is Article 21, and various freedoms 19(1)(a) to G. F has been removed, that is right to property. It is now a legal right only. So that means all these rights and freedoms have been ensured to the citizens, to the people, through these provisions of the Constitution. They are embodied in fundamental rights in Part 3. That means they are enforceable. They are so important. Now, in the landmark judgment, I think, which even the non-law students should also remember, is the Menka Gandhi's case judgment in 1978. Now, what did it state? It has added 3 important touchstones, and it has expanded the meaning of procedure established by law. Those who have not studied law, there are 2 terms. One is the procedure established by law, the other is called due process of law. In America, it is the due process of law which is being followed. What is the difference between the 2? In A.K. Gopalan's case in 1950, it was held that if there is a law and there is a procedure established under that law, if you follow that procedure without looking here and there, strictly follow that procedure, then you can take away the life or personal liberty of any person, because that was on preventive detention. But in Menka Gandhi's case, an element of due process means it has a wide meaning. That means the procedure has to be tested on many, many touchstones. But in Menka Gandhi's case, the 3 testing stones have been laid down. That the procedure has to be fair. Procedure has to be just, and the procedure has to be reasonable. Very, very important, because this has led to introduction of due process. Due process in place of procedure established by law. But it is not unlimited due process. Only on these 3 touchstones. And then who will test this? Whether the procedure has been fair, just, or reasonable? It is the judiciary. It will depend on the facts and circumstances of each case, where this has to be tested, every action. Because in this case, Menka Gandhi's passport was impounded. That time, the Indian Passport Act of 1967 was in force. There was a procedure step in that law. So there was a law, Passports Act of 1967, but there was a procedure also. So that means the condition of 21 was fulfilled. But court said no. They said that procedure has to be tested on these three important testing stones, and then if it is declared fair, just and reasonable, then only it will be the protection under Article 21 will be available. This is a very important point because this has brought a new concept of due process in our legal system. Now, let us see the equality. We have already mentioned equality of status and of opportunity. So, it makes illegal all discriminations by the state between one citizen and another on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. Only, the word is only. When we study Article 15, we will study the importance of this word only. But the general principle is it ensures a kind of equality because it puts a rider kind of ये अंकुश लगा देता है स्टेट के ऊपर कि आप डिस्क्रिमिनेशन इन ग्राउंड्स पर नहीं करेंगे, राइट. We see untouchability. Untouchability is again abolished under Article 17. It's a fundamental right. Titles, pre-independence era, people used to have titles, Raja Bahadur, Rai Bahadur, like that, Maharaja, etc. Those titles, sir, those titles have been removed, abolished. So that has brought kind of equality in status. Now, matters relating to employment under the state Article 16. Here also, no discrimination. We will study when we study in detail. The general principle of equality has been ensured under Article 14, which says equality before law and equal protection of laws, and it is available to any person. 15 and 16, discrimination. General discrimination and discrimination for employment under the state, they have been made available to only citizens. Whereas Article 14, right to equality, is available to any person. So, there will be equality before law and equal protection of laws. That means there will be rule of law, as Dicey has propagated the rule of law. And what is antithesis to rule of law? It is arbitrariness. So, antithesis to rule of law is arbitrariness. In Royappa versus State of Tamil Nadu case, very famous case. But the crux of the matter is that there will not be any discrimination. Equality will be ensured. But you will be wondering, no, there are reservations. There are, certain classes who have been not discriminated, but they have been put in a different class and given certain kind of privileges. Now, those privileges are the affirmative actions by the state to remove inequality. जब हम इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं तो इक्वालिटी होती है इक्वल among equals, जो बराबर हैं उनमें एक जो कैटेगरी है उसमें बराबर रहें. But it is not between unequals. Socially, economically, and on certain other criteria under Article 15 and 16, when we go into the depth of that. So equality has to be among the equals, and it should not be between unequals. Okay? Not between the people who have and who have not. It has to be between those who have. They should be treated at equal par, at par with others in that category. The class has to be created on certain criteria if the state wants to discriminate or give certain privileges to any particular section of the people. In that case, the class should be created with some objective in the mind कि उनको हमने बराबर लाना है, ऊपर लाना है. And the law should meet that objective. It should not be going away. It should meet that objective. Once the objective of creating a class is there, then it should have a rational relationship between the affirmative action and the objective. We come to fraternity. Fraternity को सीधा साधा कहे तो हम भाईचारा होता है. अब क्या है? Fraternity means a sense of common brotherhood of all Indians. That means we all Indians are our brothers. We have seen the principle of equality. Now this fraternity is also reflected. Constitution of India is indicative of fraternity such as common citizenship. There is single citizenship. We don't have dual citizenship here or multiple citizenship. That means भाईचारा तभी बनेगा जब एक ही तरह के सबको सिटीजनशिप उस कंट्री की मिलेगी. So we have Article 5 which has single citizenship going for dual citizenship. Now, another important fundamental right is Article 19, which deals with various freedoms, which I discussed just now. There are two freedoms which are very important. Right of citizens to move freely throughout the territory of India and reside. These are 19(1)(d) and 19(1)(e). But they are subject to certain reasonable restrictions which are there in the Article 19 itself from 1902 to 1906 that we will study when we come to freedoms. Trade or calling in any part of India. Again, another freedom protected under Article 19, but they are available only to citizens, not to non-citizens. That means you can do any profession, you can do any business, again subject to reasonable restrictions which are mentioned in 1906. So, friends, this fraternity word actually gives us a sense of brotherhood, एक दूसरे से जोड़ने के लिए, like a web, a well-knit web. And that beautiful well-knit web is our country, India. Let me tell you one thing that on all this material, we have developed a very informative and very, very useful reading material, study material, which is available on our website, www.bnbyias.com. We have made very good test series, very useful test series. You can visit them, you can go through them, and you can test your knowledge on that. Whatever I am teaching, you will find there in those test series. Now we come to the dignity of the individual. मैंने पहले भी कहा था जब हम लाइफ और पर्सनल लिबर्टी की बात कर रहे थे तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बहुत सारे केसेस में ये कहा है कि लोग लाइफ डज नॉट मीन ओनली एनिमल एग्जिस्टेंस, इट हैज टू बी विद डिग्निटी. So when we talk of dignity, you know, it's a fundamental right. In this case, Supreme Court has already held. But what does dignity mean इज्जत, स्वाभिमान, हम एक जिंदगी जिए इज्जत के साथ, स्वाभिमान के साथ, सर ऊंचा करके, सबके साथ बराबरी के साथ। बहुत ही अच्छा कॉन्सेप्ट हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने हमें दिया है। All citizens, men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. अब ये दोनों क्या हैं? डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स, आर्टिकल 39A, आर्टिकल 42। तो ये किस पे है? These are the duties cast upon the state. State has to ensure this. Okay? The state has to ensure that every citizen has dignity, not mere animal existence. Decent standard of life and full employment of leisure and social and cultural opportunities. Again, a directive principle under Article 43. What does that mean? That I should have my own standard of life which I choose, which I can afford. I should have ample opportunity to have, my social contacts, my social life, leisure. I should be able to spend my own time, and cultural opportunities. Very important. We belong, our country is like, a beautiful garden. Unity in diversity. So much of diversity in both. There's a linguistic diversity, there's a cultural diversity, there's a racial diversity. कैसे है? आप देखिए, आपको नॉर्थ ईस्ट में मंगोलियन रेस मिल जाएंगी. They have features of Mongolian race. In certain parts of India, we say they are Aryans. In southern part of India, we say they are Dravidian race. Like that. So, we have a multicultural, multiracial, multilinguistic society in India. Very, very unique. You will not find it in anywhere in the world. It's a beautiful example of peaceful and harmonious coexistence. This is how it has been ensured through the dignity of the individual. I have my right to follow my own cultural life, my social life. And that is the duty cast upon the state to ensure all this. We come to unity and integrity of the nation. Now, I told you that the word integrity has been added by 42nd Amendment. Unity was already there. Unity of the nation was already there. The word integrity. Why it has been added? Very, very important part. 42nd Amendment created a new chapter in the Constitution. That is chapter 4A, which deals with fundamental duties. As I said, no right comes without a duty or responsibility. अब क्या है, हमने राइट्स दिए सिटीजन्स को, पर डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स के थ्रू हमने ड्यूटीज लगा दी स्टेट पे कि स्टेट सिटीजन्स को ये प्रोवाइड करेगी, ऐसा लाइफ प्रोवाइड करेगी, सोशल इक्वलिटी प्रोवाइड करेगी, ये करेगी, जस्टिस करेगी. लेकिन हमने सिटीजन्स पे ड्यूटीज नहीं लगाई. They were understood, but they were not put in black and white. So, through 42nd Amendment, this important part was added, Part 4A. Fundamental duties, though already existing, but were codified in the Constitution, made a part of Constitution itself. They are not enforceable, but it is expected of all the citizens that they scrupulously follow all these fundamental duties. How? So it is the duty of every citizen of India to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of the कंट्री। हम कंट्री की सॉवरेनिटी को, एकता को, इंटीग्रिटी को बनाए रखें, ये हमारे ऊपर ड्यूटी है। ये सिर्फ स्टेट के ऊपर नहीं है। इट इज ए ड्यूटी कॉस्ट अपॉन सिटीजन्स। किसके एवज में, किसके उसमें चेक्स एंड बैलेंस कैसे है? हमें फंडामेंटल राइट्स दिए गए हैं विच आर एनफोर्सेबल, very very powerful tool in the hand of a citizen, can go to the court and get any of the writs. Okay, state has denied me this fundamental or violated my fundamental right, and that will be set right by the court. But then when I have a right, I too have a duty for my nation. So fundamental duties, duty to protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity. This is a duty on us. Supreme Court has said that every citizen has the right to fly the national flag. Very important case of Naveen Jindal versus Union of India. Now in this case, the petitioner Naveen Jindal said that I have a right to fly national flag. Without, of course, within certain limits, without any disrespect. So the court held, yes, every citizen has the right to fly national flag subject to restrictions specified in the article. That means it is not an unfettered right. No right is unfettered. As I said, it comes with responsibilities and duties. So I have to not only maintain, not only protect the sovereignty and unity and integrity of the nation, but also I have to show it also. I should have an option to show it. Yes, I am an Indian, I am a proud Indian. This is what this particular judgment has reflected. So friends, let us sum up today's talk. We say that preamble does not confer any right or any duties either on state or the individual. As I said, it's not a source of any substantive power. It is only a mirror reflection of what is there in a precise form. What is the soul of this constitution? It is very much part of the constitution. Now, this is very important. You remember this famous case of Keshwanand Bharti versus State of Kerala? Very, very landmark judgment on amendment of the constitution. It has laid down a doctrine of basic structure. That means the legislature can amend any part of the constitution. Okay, any part of the constitution subject to basic structure. Though the court has till date not defined what is basic structure. It depends on the facts and circumstances of each case, and the court will decide. Judiciary has taken over this duty upon them to decide, to interpret whether a particular law or particular amendment is disturbing, is unbalancing the basic structure or hitting at the basic structure or not. At that time, the question again came that preamble is a part of constitution or not, because preamble is, I said, the reflection. It was reiterated by the judiciary. In A.K. Gopalan also, it was, yes, preamble is part of the constitution. Keshwanand Bharti also, it was upheld. Look, yes, preamble is very much a part of constitution. अब आपको एक कैच बताता हूं मैं. केशवानंद भारती केस की जजमेंट हुई थी 1973 में, और बताइए 42nd अमेंडमेंट कब हुई थी? 1976 में, 3 साल इसके बाद. और उसमें प्रियम्बल को भी अमेंड किया गया था। ये अमेंडमेंट आपके सामने है 42nd अमेंडमेंट से। ना सिर्फ फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज और कुछ और पार्ट्स को अमेंड किया गया, बट प्रियम्बल इटसेल्फ वाज अमेंडेड सो दैट हैड टू पास द बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर डॉक्ट्रिन टेस्ट ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर। तो वो किसमें हुआ? वो हुआ मिनर्वा मिल्स केस में 1980। Whatever changes have been brought about through this amendment only highlight the provisions which are already embodied in the text of the Constitution and thus not affecting or altering the basic structure. तो इस बड़ी लैंडमार्क जजमेंट में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि प्रियम्बल को अमेंड तो किया है 42nd अमेंडमेंट से, लेकिन उन अमेंडमेंट्स, वो अमेंडमेंट्स क्यों हुई हैं? बिकॉज इट वॉज ऑलरेडी देयर एम्बॉडीड इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज बीन ओनली रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द प्रियम्बल थ्रू दिस अमेंडमेंट. So it is not altering the basic structure. This is very important just for your knowledge sake and to improve the answer to any question relating to amendment of the preamble. So friends, here we have some questions for the aspirants who have opted law as their optional subject. These questions have been asked in previous years by the UPSC. You can go through them and they will be all available in the study material which we will be making available to all of you. You are welcome to get it, to go through it, and again come back to me. I am a former IAS officer with more than 31 years of service. I belong to 1987 batch. I had cleared Civil Services Examination 1986 with law as my main optional in both prelims as well as mains. And I have got 2 masters in law. I did LLB from Delhi University, Masters of Law LLM from Indian Law Institute, the top law research institute of the country, and Master of Business Laws from National Law School, Bangalore, which is #1 ranking law school in the country. And for any help, any queries on this subject or any other subject related to law, you are always welcome to ask me. I'll be available to all of you. Thank you very much.